is not here tonight. He is on vacation. So I'm doing the MC work tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Alan Wiggins. I'm normally the print chair. And it is tonight is the March General and Monochrome competition. So without further ado, I'm going to let our judge, Ron Ames, introduce himself. Go ahead, Ron.
All right, thank you. So I started off actually as a muralist. I had my own decorative painting company till about late 1999. But in the process of that, I had to photograph a lot of my work to show clients. So photography was always something that I did. And on the weekends, when I wasn't working, I would go out and focus on landscape photography, abstract work, photo impressionism, intentional camera movement, and nature. In 2016, I joined the Montgomery County Camera Club, and a couple of years later, the president submitted my name for the MPA judging program, which I did, and I graduated in December 2020. And then came back to Montgomery County, left there and moved to Frederick, Maryland about a year ago. And I continued to, follow the different interests that I had in photography, and I joined the Frederick Camera Clique. It's been about a year now, and here I am.
Great, we're glad to have you, Ron. I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody. And Alan and Ron, can you unmute yourself?
Sure.
Okay. All right, I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started here. We're going to start with the general category first. All right. Bear with me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. First, before I start here, we have 31 entries in general. So there are 5 honorable mentions and 5 places. First image up is Translucent by Elena Casey.
Now, in this sequence, do I do in, out, or just make comments?
Just
it's comments because the in out stuff's already been done.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for the correct there.
Okay.
All right. So you've definitely captured the title of this image, Translucence. I'm intrigued by the effect, which on my screen looks very, it's almost like a filter. The striking part of this image is not only the translucence, but the assemblage of the rule of threes. And this is a strong format. The only thing that I can see about this that is distracting my attention is the piece on the left with its stem pointing downward. It's really moving my eye out of the frame, and I find that to be distracting. So maybe if some other assemblage would be a stronger image.
Next up, I'm having a little trouble getting images to move. Now, here we go. Pemaquid Sunrise by Neil Shapiro.
Clearly a master at lighting and putting together a photograph that's just really sharp. The lighting is well done. The issue that I see here is the up near the light tower. The house is a little bit scrunched up to the side there, and I see that on the right you have a lot of space there that you could have cropped off and maybe brought the house a little bit more into the picture.
Next up, Framed in Black, Alan Wiggins.
This is an interesting shot, and it's even in its fragmentation, it has a story here. However, I find my sight, my vision, just constantly going to these individual geometric pieces, and the piece on the left, I don't see a real connection or addition that it adds to the image. So I find it a little distracting. And the space between the triangle on the right, perhaps bringing that triangle more into closeness to the middle image would give it a more cohesive picture. The way it is right now, it's so distant from the other two that I find my attention being split. So if reorienting these shapes, if possible, would make this a stronger image.
Next up, The Best Books by Bill Lanahan.
Geometrically, this is architecturally a nice shot. It's got symmetry. The lighting is good. The center is well placed. The distraction is the title, actually, above the columns where it says the best books of, and I'm wanting to know the best books of what. The thing about including words in a image, I think it helps to have a completion suggestion of the sentence or the words. I find myself more preoccupied with what the words are saying rather than looking at all the image as a totality.
Next up, Sail Again Tomorrow, Bill Lanahan.
Yeah, this lighting is wonderful lighting. You've captured the image well. The mast has some distance from the leaves, so it's not too close. The big distraction here is on the right-hand side. You'll see the very dark, solid black bundles of blackness there. I think you could have cropped it a little bit more to the left to get focus more on the boat and the sun and the reflection. But that big patch of black there is distracting.
Next up, okay, On the Hunt by Dan Steen.
Yeah, wonderful placement of the subject. It looks crisp and focused, and unfortunately, the big distractor there is that branch that goes behind the head and shoots up. That can be easily remedied. If that was done, this would be a stronger image.
Next up, Two Worlds Passing by Dan Steen.
Yeah, I like motion images. We can all agree that it's very powerful and dynamic. This image, the horse is cut in half, and it's disconcerting in a way. But you could crop this. You could crop the horse out, and by cropping the horse out, you'd get a nice abstract movement happening there with at least you have the carriage coming into the scene, the horse is going out of the scene, and in this sense, doesn't really add to the strength of this image. I would play around with cropping the horse out and maybe rotating the image and seeing what other possibilities are for this image. There's potential there. It's just a question of playing around with cropping and rotation and but other than that, it has potential. Work with it.
All right, next up, Pinnacle, First Light, by Janice Pritchett.
Yeah, this again, all the action is happening on the left-hand side there. I would suggest experimenting on cropping the right some, so because my attention is drawn to those three little islands type things on the right there, whereas the focus is really where the sun is and that area of the image with the clouds. So just a bit of cropping there would help.
Next up, Leaf by Joe Catronio.
Yeah, strong image with the geometry. The distraction that I see there is the vein on the left-hand side, which goes out of the frame. I'm seeing that if that was cropped out, you'd have a stronger image where the attention goes straight to the main stem and not veering off into the left there.
Next up, Dragonfly Face Off Composite, Joe Catronio.
Yeah, this is a very the placement of the images is pretty strong. You have a nice focus point. You have a nice the delineation of the wings are excellent. My only suggestion would play around with the background a little bit, because it's almost it's almost like a flat background, maybe some I don't know, just the background seems to not enhance the dragonflies. I don't know, maybe toning it down or changing the color a little bit, just to make those dragonflies pop out. I mean, they pop now, but they can be popped out even more by the background color change.
Next up, Dead Sunflower Duo by Kim Koza.
Yeah, I mean, clearly texture here is just wonderful. Whatever the applications were used to do this was pretty well thought out. The only comment I have here is that the two together really split my vision, and I'm constantly seeing myself go left to right and right to left. And usually in the rule of threes, they say that 1, 3, 7, 9 are good numbers to do an image in. That's just a general rule, but I find that to be helpful. So maybe picking one of these instead of two would have made this a little more focused presentation.
Next up, Goldfinch in Flight of Snow.
Yeah, I mean, always catching something in mid-flight is a challenge, and this one was caught and it's placed perfectly in the center. I would like to see some more delineation or more crispness, sharpness of the image. And I understand in flight it may be difficult, but with the right lens or something, you can get this a little more crisper.
Next up, Lily by Marguerite Hill.
Yeah, the big the colors are wonderful. The colors are wonderful. It's crisp. It's focused. The issue I see here is and I don't know whether that's called a pistil or stamen or whatever it is in the center. The fact that it's overlapping on one of the leaves is kind of disconcerting and distracting. Whereas if maybe moving to the left a little bit, so you get that stamen right in the middle, and it's not overlapping a petal, would make it a stronger presentation. And also a little cropping. I mean, there's two pictures, there are two images in this image. There's the one on the left and one on the right. And it's just your choice of which you want to do. You can either crop a little bit off to the left and bring that stamen out of center and maybe along the rule of thirds. You can do that on the right or the left.
Next up, Sam in her reverse strays. Nancy Jones.
This looks, this is children are always wonderful to take photos of because they're exuberant, they're innocent, they're playful. So as far as your subject goes, it's a beautiful subject. The problem I see here is with the white balance. She almost looks like she's got a greenish tint across her skin. So maybe some work on the white balance area would help this image.
Next up, just roaming around, Paula Keefe.
Yeah, this again, your subject is right there on the one of the rule of thirds lines. That's great. That's where all the action is. And the area on the left, there's a lot of space on the left there. So I find myself roaming around there to see if there's any other objects there that are attracting my attention, but there aren't. So I would recommend just cropping about a quarter of that off, so that the eye is more towards the ram and the foliage there. I think there's too much space on the left, and it distracts my attention.
Next up, Daybreak by Robert Neer.
Yeah, subject well placed. Clearly a wonderful image on the lake, frozen clearly. The distraction that I see there are these patio lights that don't seem to have an anchor, and there's some branches coming out from the corner of from the image, which is also distracting.
Next up, May Need a Bigger Feeder by Robert Neer.
Yeah, the placement is well done. You've got nice distance there from the edge of the right-hand side to the bird feeder. You've got the eye, which is really focused. The feathers are well delineated. The only thing that I find is a little bit of a distraction is that green. It's like I think it's the green hole to the feeder, but when I first saw this, my initial response was it had two beaks, or there was another bird behind it, or something. But that geometric point right below the beak is and maybe you can't get away from doing something like that. But I find that distracting. But I also enjoyed having this bird have that little orange pellet of something in its beak, just to open its beak up a little bit more. That was a nice catch.
Next up, Golden Filament by Ronald Spear.
The the most attracting thing about this image is the globe and the reflections and the translucence of the globe. You know, a filament is thread-like. It's very thin, and I don't know whether it's because of the closeness of this that vision or that filament, that thinness is not there. This looks like a little more distorted. So maybe pulling back a little bit so that you can really see the filament as a thread rather than a band of light.
Next up, My Pet Elephant by Sean Sullivan.
The only thing that I see here is a wonderful image. You know, we got nice texture in the elephant, and what competes with the elephant are the two trees, the one on the left and one on the right, and by cropping the one on the left, I believe this image would be a lot stronger, only because then you also have the relationship with the elephant to the tree in the background, where, you know, it's got its strong trunk there, it's got a branch going out, and then you have this elephant with its trunk. So there's a relationship there, whereas there's no relationship to the trunk on the left. So I think that's unnecessary, and maybe cropping that out would make this image a little more focused.
Next up, Fantasy, Sharon Silversmith.
Yeah, color's wonderful, very festive. You know, it could be in so many places, that countries that enjoy having color on their buildings. Having that white sky there is blown out, is a big distraction. So maybe cropping it down some so that that's eliminated. You also have on the upper right-hand corner, you have this little part of the window there. And I call those dangling modifiers, because elements like that in an image just sort of hang out there. There's no real purpose. And so this can be modified by just cropping it down from the top some, so the focus is actually on the person, which is the focal point of this image.
Next up, Bulb in Bokeh.
Yeah.
I don't know who the photographer was that took this. I guess the data wasn't there. Oh, it's Sean's. Okay. So Bulb in Bokeh by Sean Sullivan.
Okay. Well, here clearly the light bulb is the focal point here. The filament is very thread-like, and it's placed well. There are distractions here too, like at the top you have that half of a bulb showing there, that light there. That can be cropped out. You have this bulb, you have this in the background bokeh, you have a little part of a bulb right behind it, which is also distracting. The colors are great though. And you have this interesting, on the left-hand side, you have this interesting perspective through a glass.
Next up, oh, we're up to honorable mentions. First honorable mention, Iris by Claudia Jakubowski.
Yeah, this, you know, I like the depth in this. It's nice. The placement of it is spot on. You have a lot of nice space around it. And with the low key, it really brings your attention. to the iris. You can see clearly the droplets of water on there. So this is a shot that if you're a minimalist, you would probably enjoy this. So.
All right, next honorable mention, Vermont Cemetery by Dow Smith.
Yeah, clearly all the action is happening there on the left, you know, with the obelisk there, and with the flag. I'm feeling again a slight cropping on the right-hand side, just to bring your attention more to the left side. Would help with this.
Next honorable mention, Against the Wind by Dow Smith.
Yeah, this is this is a strong image here, and again, I think you could even go down. I think what takes away from this, I think, is the blue sky. If you could crop it down just a little bit, and I know that's going to go into the trees, which are, you know, which the wind is blowing, and that's the intent of this image. However, you can still get that feeling if you cropped a little bit of the sky down some, and it would keep your attention right down on the tree.
Next honorable mention, Half Amp Half by Elena Casey.
Yeah, this is an interesting assemblage. I like the balance of the onion's yellow in with the magenta, and then the onion's magenta into the yellow. It's a nice balance there. And then you've got the outside of the onion, the inside. There's a good balance there, and then a real nice little interesting appetizer is the reflection of the growing onion coming out of the onion below it, as if it had its own sprout. So this was an interesting photograph.
The title was actually Half and Half.
Ah, well, I do feel amped up.
Next up, I think this is the last honorable mention, Security Blanket by Linda Tomasullo.
Yeah, you know, this is so painterly. You know, it's just a wonderful image, because it's got a playfulness to it, and yet you can definitely tell that there's a lot of skill in the way this was put together.
All right, we should be up to our winners. Yep. So 5th place, Grandpa Ken's Violin Case by Kim Koza.
Yeah, the image is well situated. You've got, you know, on either side, you have a nice space there. The texture is just wonderful in this. And I don't know what those two, what looks like branches are coming out of there, but it almost looks like little flowers. So there's a real nice feeling here about this is Grandpa's case, and I see these little, what to me looks like buds or flowers, that there's a nice connection between the grandpa and you know, the grandchild, or the, you know, whoever had a relationship with Grandpa Ken, certainly held him in esteem, because you've really assembled this image with a very sensitive branch with flowers and stuff. So this is wonderful.
And 4th place, Blue Ivy by Janice Pritchett.
Yeah, there's a very the coloring in here, the placement of the trees and the little island, the reflections. These are all very, very well assembled together, and it's just a very nice shot.
And third place, Silence is Golden by Neil Shapiro.
Yeah, the coloration in here is just wonderful, and the heron on the island there is just right there in the right there on the right third level, and that little stream, almost like a very pale blue across there, is just really balances this image out. It's a wonderful minimalist type shot.
And second place, I don't know what it is either, by Phil Olivo.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either. It just really looks like a space out of space thing, but just the composition and the color and it's just a wonderful juxtaposition of nature and man, and how what man creates erodes.
And first place goes to Pile of Buoys by Claudia Jakubowski.
Yeah, this has a powerful reaction, because it looks like a tsunami hit here and just brought all this debris up on this land, and all again man-made buoys, very colorful, and then you have behind you this nature that's not exactly colorful, but it's just a very instructive image as far as the environment goes, and the reflection at the bottom is really nice too, and balances it out.
Congratulations to Claudia. All right, moving on to our monochrome competition. We have, I believe, 32 entries, so there's 5 honorable mentions and 5 places. First up, Enchanted by Neil Shapiro.
Yes, nice title for this image, because it is enchanting, and clearly the action is right there where the fog is, and the mist from the center a little bit to the right. My only comment would be that you could probably crop a little bit of the left out, so that you could focus more on where the action is, which is where that small tree and the fog is. You have some on the left-hand side. You do have a space between 2 trees that has some nice depth to it. However, I find that distracting from the main part of where the action is, which is on the right, with that little tree between the 2. I think it's with that crop, you would have it even more of my attention focus on that part.
Next, The Magic of Iceland, Neil Shapiro.
Yeah, the skill at putting this together is clear. I have 2 comments about this. One comment is that when I see a leading line, I think a leading line is like an invitation, or it's a promise. It's like, follow me, and I'm going to take you somewhere. At the end of this road, you're going to see something. But at the end of this road, I don't see anything. And with leading lines, if you're going to lead me somewhere, at least, show me show me where I'm going. Give me a lollipop, or, you know, something that will satisfy my journey on this road, on this line that you're leading me to. And so that's one observation. The other one, I think, a little cropping on the right, because you have this mountain on the right that's going out of the frame, and it really, it's almost like the mountain's cut in half. I believe you could get away with cropping that down a little bit to where you come to that little white area between the two mountains. Yeah.
Next up, cousins, Alan Wiggins.
You know, clearly about friendship and just acceptance and joy of just being together. The tonalities are wonderful. The only distraction I see is the lower right-hand corner where the hand is cut off and you have the thumb on her. That's and maybe that couldn't have been helped. However, it is a little bit of a distractor.
Next up, the conversation, Alan Wiggins.
Yeah, clearly a conversation she does not want to hear. But you know, it's a definitely a lot of emotion in this image here. And there are two things that really distract me. One is the bottle on the left-hand side, which is right below his ear. That's a little bit of a distractor. And then I don't know whether it's the background or it's something, there's a very faint wisp of smoke that looks like it's coming out of his mouth. And you know, I don't know whether he's drinking coffee or it's a background, but that's a little bit of a distraction myself to see. But other than this, the storytelling in here, there's definitely a story here.
Next up, Lonely Tree, Bill Lanahan.
Yeah, again, you know, all the action is happening on the left, and you know, on the right-hand side, there are things happening, but it doesn't really contribute to the left-hand side. So I would suggest a crop on the right-hand side, because on the left-hand side, you have this little tuft of grass in the foreground, and then you have this big tree on the slope here. So there's a nice balance there. So just a little bit of crop on the right, I think would make this more of a focused image.
Next up, Rounding the Curve, Bill Lanahan.
Well, this is the part of this image that has more weight and more strength to it is the right-hand side. The left-hand side, there's a lot of congestion happening there. And I understand this is a bicycle race. However, the separation on the right-hand side, it's not much of a separation, but it's enough between the two cyclists on the right. So I feel there's more of a dynamic thing happening there. So I would even crop out the 1, 2, 3, the 4 riders on the left, and that would make it a stronger image.
Next up, Old Number 7, Dan Steen.
Yeah, nice gradation of color in the front there. The reflection on that clean steel is very nice. What I don't think is necessary here is the grill at the bottom. You have this angle going here. I think you could even crop that out. And you could, it would be a stronger picture without that angled down at the grill area.
Next up, Storm on the Mountain, Dow Smith.
Yeah, this, again, you know, clearly someone who's who knows how to move around with getting an image together and post-production. I would like to see a little more lighting on the mountain in the front, in the foreground, which is almost pitch black. You've done a nice job here on the right-hand side with some of the pine trees. You've done some nice lighting there. And then the pylons on the side of the road, there's some nice lighting happening there. And in the background, nice gradation of color tones there. If you could, if the left-hand side had a little more light being revealed on it, that would be nice. And then I think the top of the image, not much of a crop, but a little bit of crop of coming down. This big swath of grayish black here. I mean, you could still retain the effect of it by just coming down just a little bit, but it's a wonderful photograph.
Next up, Dahlia in Helsinki, Elena Casey.
Yeah, the way this image just brings you into the center is it is very, very powerful in a gentle sort of way. However, when you go out of it some more, you kind of get lost in all this other peripheral. Even though the tonalities are really nice on the edge, you could still come tighter. You can crop this in a lot tighter because these repeating patterns, once you see the repeating patterns in the middle and surrounding middle, you know that they're going to go outward. And as they go outward, they get lighter and diffused. To bring your attention more into the center, just tightening up the crop toward and really focusing your attention in there would be helpful in getting this to be a stronger image.
Next up, After the Storm, Janice Pritchett.
Yeah, again, the interest point is on the left-hand side. There's a lot of depth going back into the forest there. Whereas on the right, there's forest, but it's really, there's some areas here that are really unnecessary and takes away the strength of where the action is, which is on the left-hand side. Again, so I would just crop this a little bit on the right until you get an even balance of the image, but have the attention focused on that depth on the left-hand side there.
Next up, Mirror Lake doing its thing, Janice Pritchett.
Yeah, this is a wonderful image. There's a lot of depth in there, the tonalities and the reflection there. It's all really beautiful. My eye keeps on going to this spire on the right-hand side here. And maybe if that little bit was cropped out, then your eye would be really focused on the horizon. It's interesting because on the left and right-hand side of this image, you have the tree lines almost coming like leading lines to a point, and right off into the distance, right in the middle, there is this lone tree right there in the middle. And it's these leading lines have come there and have focused on that. And that, so I think by cropping that little spire on the left a little bit there, you would still retain the strength of this image and have those leading lines on the left-hand side and right-hand side just come in and converge on that lone tree out in the center there. But this again, another skilled maker here.
Next up, Birds and Tree, Joe Petronio.
Yeah, this clearly the central focus here is that everybody's perched on a tree except for that one bird in the center there, and that's where the action is. And all this really needs is just a tighter crop, just to bring vision more focused on that bird in the center there that's framed by those branches. But nice shot.
Next up, South Shore Road,
Hmm.
Kim Koza.
Yeah, again, leading lines are very, very powerful. And, again, having something at the end of a leading line is, in my opinion, that's the purpose of leading lines. They're leading you somewhere. And, it goes off into the horizon, and it's left up to imagination of where's it lead to, and that's okay. That's fine. But usually leading lines are indicators of something at the end of it, and whether it could be a tree or a building or a stream or something. But you've gotten down low on the road here, so the perspective is a really nice perspective here.
Next up, GSL, Snowy Day. Kim Koza, not sure what GSL stands for. Oh, Great Sacandaga Lake, there we go.
Yeah, I like the atmospheric perspective here. It's you got some nice depth happening here. You have elements in here that are competing with each other. You have this break in the ice on the left that's competing with this wonderful tree and shrub down here on the right. And then you have some encroaching of another tree on the right-hand frame area, which it was probably hard to do from the point of view that you were taking this photograph, and maybe having moved to the left a little bit to get more of that would have been a choice. But other than that, this is a well put together image.
Next, Boston in black and white, Linda Tomasulo.
Yeah, with grids, horizontal and vertical lines like this, it's really difficult to try and get them straight. But that's the strength of them sometimes too, is that you have such a dynamic diagonal line going on. The only suggestion I would have is on the left-hand side, you have these encroachers, you have these little white triangles from large to small coming at the edge. If that could be cropped off just a little bit, because my eyes are drawn to that edge and it takes me off of the frame. So cropping that out, that little bit out, I think that would help this image more. But this is a wonderful, wonderful shot.
Next, Safe on the Fence, Marguerite Hill.
You got, this is a good placement of the image. It's on the line, it's on the rule of thirds line. You've got the eyes directly at you. So you've got this attention. It looks to me, and I don't know if it's my screen, but it looks to me like there could be a little more focus, a little more sharpening of the cat. The image has an imbalance in the sense that on the left-hand side, you have less of the siding, and then on the right-hand side, you have more of the siding. So I think if you crop the right-hand side to the width of the siding that's on the left-hand side, that would be a balanced framing of the cat. In addition, I think if you if you cropped out that, it looked like an awning or some, I don't know what that is, but if you crop that out, that would strengthen this image even more, because then your eyes are not going up to see what that is and being distracted by those diagonal lines up there. If you crop that out and you just had that cat against the white background, sharpened it up a little bit, that would be a very strong angular image right there. But the subject matter is right on.
Next up, Tortilla Valley Landscape, Arizona, Nancy Jones.
Yeah. This reads a little bit too flat. If there was some darkening in the area, there is some darkening on the right. But I think there's those birds. I warned you about those.
Yeah,
They'll be done in a few minutes.
Nancy got lucky.
Yeah. But that's the only thing that I see in this image here is there's this little white area on the right-hand side on the face of the cliff, and then coming down a little bit here. That's really not needed. And I think by cropping that out, you're not going to lose the strength of this image. Although you'll probably hate me for saying that. But yeah, just cropping out that little bit of white there on the right-hand side. But I think this image is good.
Next up, Portrait of an Ocotillo, sorry, Ron Klein.
Yeah. I didn't know what ocotillo meant, so I looked it up, and it's a shrub that's actually it's green and red flowers and everything. So it's a beautiful plant. But in this image, I see a very strong potential here, and it's down at the bottom, and I'm covering half of the image up, so I can be able to articulate what I mean. But so there's a lot of shadows that are happening at the bottom of this shrub here, and there's another little shrub, but there's a lot of contrast over there, and I would suggest cropping this down to even just above the peak of the mountain in the back. Just a little bit, because then that'll bring your attention down to where the contrast is, which is on the lower part of this shrub. And then with the sun's obviously coming from the right, and it's casting these really nice dark shadows at the bottom. So just a little bit of a crop just above that peak in the mountain in the back, I think would make this an even stronger image than what it already is.
Next up, Barrel Cactus, Ron Klein.
Yeah, well, it's a good subject matter because those spines are going out every which way. You got it placed in a nice position. The bouquet in the back is nice. The one thing that I would do is, again, with the rule of threes, you have this other little cactus on the left-hand side here. That's really not adding to the main focus point, which is the barrel cactus. So I would crop that out. And by cropping that out, you'll see your vision become, your sight become more focused on this barrel cactus here.
Next up, North Myrtle Beach, Sean Sullivan.
The thing about leading lines is that it's easier to adjust the beginning of a leading line than it is to adjust the end of a leading line. And having said that, you could crop out those white buildings and still have that perspective and that leading line leading down to a point, which is a building at the end there. And it wouldn't take away from the strength of this image either. But nice monotones.
Next up, Gothic framing, Sharon Silversmith.
Yeah, I mean the angular points of this image are very powerful. You have arches, you have straight lines. I mean, this is a very dynamic image. Only two observations, and one is on the right-hand side. On the top, you'll see there's a light triangular part of the bridge. That's a distractor, and if that could be cropped out just a little bit, that would work, where you would still have the base of this arch still in view, and that'll give it some weight. And as you come around, and it's kind of interesting too that there's this little notch in the arch right above the head of that statue, and that head would fit perfectly in there, but you didn't put it in there, so it's nice to have that space in there. The big distractor here is this huge architectural point pointing out to the left side of the frame, and that's a very powerful image in the foreground, because it just overwhelms the statue that's in the center there. So maybe orientating your perspective or finding another view of this might have helped. But that big, I don't know what you call it, but that extension out there on the left-hand side is just drawing my attention there, and it's just dropping me out of the frame. So maybe a little bit of exploring composition here might work better.
Next up, Raindrops, Sharon Silversmith.
When I look at this, I see that it's more about, I see that there are raindrops, but I see that the flower is the key, is the more prominent subject matter here, because it's appears to be in what's the word I'm looking for? Sharpened. It's sharpened more. The flower is more sharpened. It would be nice to see some of these raindrops sharpened, more crystallized. Maybe zooming in a little bit more, or somehow sharpening the raindrops, because I do see them, but they don't appear to be prominent according to the title of your image, Raindrops. So that's what I would focus on.
Next up, we have honorable mentions. All right, first honorable mention, Morning Light, Claudia Jakubowski. Yeah,
this reminds me of an angel or a flower or wings or something. The tonalities are really wonderful. So this is nicely done.
Next honorable mention, Around Town, Elena Casey.
Yeah, this is extremely dynamic. I mean, this is just a, you've got you've got shapes and lines, and they're just competing, not competing, but they're competing in a good way, in the sense that they're creating this tension and this dynamic aspect of it. And then that hardness is softened by the clouds in the background, and this flowing flag in the wind, clearly. But this is a wonderful, wonderful image.
Next honorable mention, Beekman Brothers Wall, Linda Tomasulo.
Yeah, this is, even though this is like just filled with things, but all these things have shapes. Many of them have a rounded, soft shape. You have some that are not so round. So there's a nice contrast here of shapes, and a nice balance of the shapes, of the roundness and the sharpness, and then the tonalities. This is a very nicely clean image.
Next honorable mention, High Voltage, Robert Neer.
Yeah, this is very space age. I mean, I don't think I've seen an image like this where, except, having seen those globes with that kind of like lightning strikes to it. But the tonalities in here are great. You have this real nice vertical, I don't want to, generator, for lack of a better word. And then you have this nice contrast and intensity of this lightning coming down to it. So it's a very striking image.
Next honorable mention, Smokin', Robert Neer.
Yeah, well, this is definitely, you've captured the life of this person, just in his gaze, his wrinkles, his hair. I mean, this is, you've captured a very detailed part of this person's life. It's nice tonalities as well.
And the winners. 5th place, People's Island Tower by Dan Steen.
Yeah, this is a wonderful use of what's the word I'm looking for? Sepia, that's the word, sepia. Wonderful sepia tone here. And the juxtaposition of the clouds in the background, and then you have this this very aged vertical structure, and the texture in it, and you even have the little bit of the imperfect bend at the bottom there, which gives this image almost like a real image. It's not like, it's not perfect, it's aged, it's been there a long time, and the addition of the sepia tone really lends to that.
4th place, Dark Winter Sky, Joe Catronio.
Yeah, this is a very dynamic clouds. I mean, it just clearly, we need to look up more than we look down sometimes. There's so many things happening in the sky there, and the application of monotone is just wonderful for that. Just clouds are just wonderful. They're just beautiful.
And 3rd place, Snow Picnic, Claudia Jakubowski.
Yeah, there are just some things that a high key shot will do, and this is one of them. It just really accentuates the lines and the shapes. You even have some very subtle shadows at the bottom. the grass really adds a nice little texture to it as well. And then you have the snow that's creating that design, that geometric design on the table. And they're placed really nicely in the center there. You have nice space all around it. It's a nice shot.
And second place, Alpha in the Rain by Dow Smith.
Yeah, this you know, again, this is just really well done. I just the shadows, the tonalities, even the bokeh in the back is almost painterly like. Then you have this real sharp contrast in the front, and you even have that rain spurring off or being pushed up by the wheels turning fast. This is it's a nice image.
And our winner is Right Triangles ad infinitum, Sean Sullivan.
Yeah, you know, I talk about leading lines, and you see them at the bottom there coming from the corners, and you not only have the leading lines, but you have the vertical leading lines of the posts, and then the angular leading lines going into something. And I know, earlier I said it's always nice to have something at the end of the leading line because it's leading you somewhere. You want to have that lollipop at the end, and you have a little light at the end. But this is a reverse, what I would call a reverse leading line effect, because what I noticed that it led me to, but in reverse, was that etching on one of the wood pieces that says "Daddy loves you and misses you," and that was like, that to me that made this image just even more powerful, because instead of going forward into the leading line, I had to come back into the leading line was reversed. If I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but you can imagine yourself coming from the point of light, coming into the image the opposite way, and you have something at the end of that leading line, and is that Daddy loves you and misses you, and that's pretty powerful, and that's why this is first place.
Well, congratulations to Sean. Well, thank you, Ron.
Well, thank you. Like I said earlier,
I'm gonna
this
stop
was.
sharing.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna stop sharing. There we go.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. I mean, like I said, this was a very.
Does anybody have any questions for Ron?
Ron, thank you. It was great commentary. I think,
Well, thank
we
you,
learned
Joe.
something tonight.
I
And
appreciate it.
Alan, thank you. You did a great job standing in for Sean.
Absolutely,
Yep.
Alan.
Thank you, Alan and Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're done.
Okay. Well, thank you very much all for your patience and attention. And I always learn things too from this. So it's an ongoing process for me.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
And
Thanks so much.
All right.
thanks for the sound effects of the cuckoo clock.
All right. All right. Take care, everybody.
All right,
All right,
good night, all.
thank you.
Stay
Bye-bye.
safe.
Bye.